How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Everyone's having a lovely day. Our beloved Cincinnati Reds have just dropped a series to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now they sit 25-26. Starting to hear a lot of chatter about Tito Francona managing this Reds team. And we just seen old Marty come out and say, hey, the difference is night and day. From last season to this season, this Reds team is under David Bell versus Terry Francona. Obviously complimenting Terry in that regard. And that stirred some people up. To say the very least, there was a little bit of a controversy in those words. And today I just kind of want to, let's dive down the facts. I think, the one thing I always tell people, if you've watched the channel long enough, the first thing I always say is I don't think it matters who the manager is. A lot of fans are never going to like the manager. You watch 162 games a year. 162. Imagine somebody watched you do your job 162 times a year. How many times are you going to make a mistake? And the thing is, when you lose baseball games, when the mistake you make doesn't turn out, when the decision you make doesn't turn out, everybody, that's just how it is. You're always going to have that group of people that chastises you, that criticizes that decision. And in hindsight, if you look back and say, hey, he made 1,000 decisions, I didn't like 50 of them, 95% is not bad. They just glare the most when you lose the baseball games, or think about them the most when you lose the baseball games. And, you have to wonder, how much of what is happening do we blame on Tito? Is it the team? Is it even a blame? Is he even doing worse than David Bell? Because statistically, Marty's right. It's not close. The Reds are 25-26 right now. There's 20-28 last season. They're 5-7 in one-run games. There's 1-10 at this point last season. Pretty big difference. I think what glares the most, before we keep going, what glares the most about this Reds team, don't make many mistakes about it, it's the shutouts and it's losing to bad baseball clubs. If you beat the teams you're supposed to beat, if you beat those Pirates, if you beat the Marlins, if you beat those teams, if you win those series, you don't have to sweep them, just win those series. You talk about 4 or 5 more wins for the Reds this season. You're talking about just as many as wins as the division-leading Chicago Cubs. Big difference. Just win the games you're supposed to. No question about it. That's where the frustrations are coming from. When you're losing games 1-0 continuously. 2-1, 1-0. The Reds, what was that, like 19-7, 19-5? I don't have it on hand. That's the one stat we don't have on hand today, is the record when they score more than 2 runs. They're pretty freaking good. But I mean, just looking at some of the basic stuff, the Reds were swept 3 times at this point in juncture last season. They haven't been at all. And just to be clear, May 21st we're dating back to. So yesterday video comes out the day after is the plan. We're dating back to May 21st and all this. They were swept 3 times. Their biggest losing streak was 8 games. This season, they have not been swept once. Biggest losing streak's 4 games. And that does matter. You look back and say, what kind of stats is that? I get it. It matters a whole lot, actually, because we're going into June. And what has debilitated the Cincinnati Reds under David Bell every single season was these horrible stretches that often happened in April, often happened in May. These 3-15s, these 8-26s, these stretches that you buried yourself. So when you got to June, when you got to July, when your team got hot, when they figured it out, you was too far in the hole. And I can't stress enough where, being able to limit the damage when you're not playing your best ball, how important that is. Because, again, they're playing 500. At the end of the day, the Reds are playing 500 baseball. And we know, I just brought it up, how good this baseball team is when they can hit. Are they hitting now? Whatever. If they catch fire in July, if your core players, if your Spencer Steers somehow start to not, have shoulder problems, probably not going to happen. If you're Matt McLean's, if your franchise and Ellie starts batting over 250, if Tyler Stevenson figures it out, your core players start hitting the baseball well, you're going to win a lot of baseball games. So to be able to limit the damage early is very important, because this team with this pitching staff, with this bullpen, is very capable of reeling off 9-10, 12-15, 16-20. If you do that at 500, now you're looking at first place in a division contention. You're looking at a potential, again, a 90-72 type of season, an 88-74 type of season, where you can make the playoffs and you can contend. Maybe you do better than that. But when you have these David Bell seasons where you're 28-28, and now you go on that 12-15 stretch, Now you're looking at what, 22 and or 32 and 31. Now you're just getting back to 500. So to stay at 500 and stay content is very important in my mind. Not to mention it keeps your team believing. It keeps them hoping. When you're 500, you're like, okay, we're still playing winning baseball. We're still in the thick of things compared to entering June 10 games out. You're like, okay, well, a little more difficult to rally the troops up. Let's talk about some of them core stats though. Batting average 19th. That's versus 26th last season. Batting average versus left-handed pitchers. That is 19th. That is versus 30th last season. And this, again, sure, it's not blowing the cover off the baseball and stretch the imagination, but these are important. You know why? Because I see it, we're seeing it more. It was wild to me in the moment. It is wild to me now. There will never be a point in time where I thought what David Bell was doing with that platoon lineup, putting 13 guys in a lineup in a day was a good idea. At the end of the day, you want to be honest, the Reds' problems with left-handed pitching right now with these young players is a product of David Bell, because he did not let these guys bat every single day. He did not give them opportunities to grow and develop. When you got 23-year-olds, when you got 24-year-olds on the team batting, you had to force a lot of these guys up to fill some spots or whatever. They need to get the reps, especially when you're 12 games below 500. I don't need no 33-year-old, coming in here just because he's better against the lefties when I'm 10 games below 500. Give these guys every single rep. Get them the opportunities. They're not going to get better if they don't see live action against these different guys. And that does, down the road, of course, you do have some guys that just don't hit lefties as well as righties. And there is a point in juncture where, hey, we're 2-3 years into these guys' careers. This is clearly not getting better. And maybe we got to start benching them, or we're going to. So there's definitely a place for it. But I just think it's important to look at, because there's no question about it. The Reds' biggest hole lately, over the last few seasons, it's been left-handed pitching. It's been stonewalling them. But if this platoon, this analytic game that David Bell was worked so well last season, why were they 30th in the league and now they're again 19th? Why is the improvement so much better? So I think just, again, sometimes you have to look past the noise and just pure statistically say, hey, maybe it doesn't feel like it in the moment, but there's been an improvement under Terry Francona. And I know injuries come up, injuries this, injuries that. It's like, again, I don't like to look at it too much, because yeah, there was the injuries last season, but you can say, hey, or even the season before, we can say, hey, Matt McClain wasn't here last season. He's not here this season. Well, technically he is, but Spencer Steer's playing with a bat. He's playing hurt. Your franchise cornerstone player, and Ellie's been here the whole time. He's still batting 240. All these other guys are kind of fillers. Whether it be last season or this season, kind of like fill your holes, fill your needs. They're not guys that are supposed to carry the team, not carry the team. It just, the production's just been overall better. I know a lot less aggressive this season. This one's kind of surprised me, because it always felt like they was more aggressive last season. Reds are 4th in stolen bases this season. It was 3rd last season. The big difference, no question about it, if you was to compare the two managers, and a lot of people love the small ball, and I understand it. The Reds were 8th in sacrifices last season. They are way down the list at 23rd this season. And that does matter. I love the small ball. And I've heard this come from people a couple times now. And, I'm becoming more and more open-minded to the idea that, hey, that's just not baseball anymore. As much as you hate to say it, it has been to become about the long ball. It has been about home runs. League averages are just down tremendously. Back in the day, you would think 15 years ago, remember, Adam Dunn's the prime example. Before, he was just way ahead of his time. If you had Adam Dunn in baseball these days, they'd be paying him top 10 player in the league with that 250 batting average, hitting 40 home runs. That 250 batting average would be the best on this team, dang near. Back then, you was like, oh, 250, 240. What are you doing? What's happening? That's just been baseball lately. Unless they move the mound back, these pitchers are throwing harder. They're harder to hit. The averages have been down. That's where, again, it's a little bit more difficult, just statistically speaking, to get a guy over, get him in, based off base hits. The power does matter a little bit there. I would love to see baseball come more back to where that type of baseball works. But maybe, and we got that out about, maybe that was a great thing to see, but maybe it just doesn't work as well as I thought. With obviously, it's the 10th inning, is run on second base, bunt the fucking guy over. That's different. That's completely different. I get that. Bunt him over. I don't know why we're not doing that. Definitely hear those gripes. Continuing on though, starters had an ERA last season, team ERA at 16th in the league. This season, 9th. Improvement. Here's a big one, because this one to me is probably the most important stat and why I'll take Terry Francona over David Bell every single day of the week, twice on Sunday until this one changes. The Cincinnati Reds right now have a 7th ranked bullpen in baseball from an ERA standpoint. In David Bell's entire tenure, they never touched top 10. Game after game, week after week, we was talking about these bats would get hot. They'd be the cardiac kids because you know what would happen in the 7th inning, in the 8th inning, they'd be giving up 3, they'd be giving up 4, they'd be giving up 5. The bullpen, once things started ticking, and the reason they stayed bad was because the bullpen would fall to pieces. And yeah, I do. Again, your manager can only be as good as the players on a team sometimes, but at the same time, the bullpen management is very reflective oftentimes of your manager. Is it a coincidence? You go into this season without a proven closer, right? Let's not twist it anyway. They came into the season without a proven closer. Pagan takes that role and runs with it. It's been excellent. Rogers, obviously a great pickup, but this is a bullpen. They've got some aged guys back there. Not like they just brought these guys up. Most of these guys didn't just come up through the system and just start working magic. It's like, no, there has been a turnover and an improvement that you have to, at the very least, credit Terry Francona and the crew he brought in around him to improving and developing that department in a big way. Now, we'll see where the Reds are at the end of the season. Maybe the bullpen falls apart, and maybe we'll look back and say, oh, well, David Bell was a lot better in that category. We'll see. Right now, though, we're just talking about is it warranted the heat that Terry Francona is getting? And right now, in that department, you got to praise him in a big way. Last thing I have, fielding percentage. Said at the beginning of the year, we'll say it again. It wasn't going to change overnight. This team had horrible communication. The fielding was not the greatest. You've seen it on the field. It was costing them games. Young players constantly switching their positions, moving them around. Again, reasons the platoon can kind of hurt you a little bit because you want to substitute all these guys in. Give these guys some reps at a position. Let them get comfortable. Let them stay there. 27th in the league in fielding percentage last season. They are now 17th. Again, we see it night in and night out. This is still a young group. Got to be patient with them. Got to give them chances to grow and improve. We still see them making some mistakes, some of the communication stuff. But from last year to this year, again, there has been improvement. And we have said this before. We will say it again. Of course, you want to see the Reds bats do better. This organization, they do not have the money. They don't have the payroll to pay a team full of star-studded bats. If they want to win baseball games consistently, they have to play good defense. They have to have good pitching. Right now, the defense is improving. The pitching is improving. Year over year, the Reds, as Marty would say, are night and day different. Might not feel like it watching every game, but they're improving. We have 4 more months in this season. They get hot. Things could be looking great. Hopefully, they get hot. But we're talking playoffs. Bats start figuring it out. A lot of young, talented players on this team if the bats can figure it out. We'll see where it takes us. Maybe they fall apart at the end of the season. The Reds end up 60 and 100. Hey, anything can happen. We're looking at the positive side of things, though. Saying right now, we gotta be kind. Be a little bit kinder to Terry Francona and company, but we'll give it time. Nonetheless, love y'all's thoughts. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.